3, 2, 1. Action.
Yeah.
Like, while you're performing, did they do that as well? Like play the music of the episode?
They would, except for when we did the Raining in Blood, they used the Blade music, the movie Blade. So when they called me to Abdullah, like I've been in the gym working out and stuff like that. When they called me like about 3 months before to see if I'd be interested to do it again, I said, yeah, sure. But I was at 270. So I did not look like Abdullah the Butcher. Like I looked like maybe Abdullah the Butcher when he was 18 or 19. I did not fit the body type anymore. So they're like, great, can you send us a picture of what you look now? Jason, Evan, sorry, but I gave them an old picture. So I gave them a picture before. And then as soon as they said their thing, I'm like, all right, I'm out of the gym for the next 3 months.
So nice to meet you, man, or virtually meet you. And I really, honestly, first of all, I really appreciate you reaching out. I think that's really cool of you, and it's I'm really looking forward to talking about Dark Side and your experience on that. So I appreciate that, Benny.
Not a problem. I saw one of your comments on the page, and then I went on your Instagram, and it looked very interesting and with a lot of good wrestling content. So I said, hey, let me just reach out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And can I, first of all, just say, I always just really appreciate seeing, regardless of level, if you will, but like, or status, whatever, but just seeing people doing what they love to do and like want to do, you know, seeing that you're wrestling, you're teaching, you know, doing this thing at Dark Side, which has, you know, been really successful and really appreciate it. So can I just say congratulations on that, my man, because I respect it and I appreciate it. And yeah, just congrats, because especially, you know, Dark Side as well, that was fantastic and you did an incredible job.
Thank you very much, man. And it's greatly appreciated to be acknowledged for, you know, fulfilling your life passion. And I enjoy what I do. And it's not about right now, as far as like you mentioned, stature. This has been my only job for the last 23 years and 24 years, and it's paid the bills, and I'm comfortable with it, and I enjoy the process.
That's living the dream. So I respect it, man. I appreciate it. For those obviously unaware, I mentioned just some of those things that you do. Would you like to just give a bit of context in terms of, like, you know, who is Dru, or Rodney, if you prefer that? I know that's your real name.
Whichever. Dru Onyx is a pro wrestler. I've been a pro wrestler for the last 24 years. I also run and operate and own the Torture Chamber Pro Wrestling Dojo in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And that has been going on 19 and a half years, 20 years in January. And that has been very productive. And I'm just a person who immersed himself in pro wrestling in all aspects, inside the ring, outside the ring. I also run a promotion called Torture Chamber Pro Wrestling, and it's been around for about, I'd say about 13 years now. So that's basically it. I had an opportunity through wrestling to be able to travel all over this globe and meet interesting people, and allow it to be a part of my my life.
Nice. And it's landed you in the film world in some ways with Dark Side of the Ring, which obviously that was last week's episode, you as Abdullah the Butcher.
Yeah.
How I mean, first of all, I think I tweeted it, and then the only word that came to my mind when I watched it was powerful. That was the feeling that it left. It was just really powerful, and it had me kind of had in all sorts of emotions. What has been the reception for you, and like how, like, you know, how that episode been received, and, you know, your thoughts on it, and perhaps even did you hear anything from Abdullah and Abdullah the Butcher, and how you portrayed him?
Majority wise, a lot of people were receptive to my performance. The whole idea, what I wanted to do wasn't just to emulate his mannerisms. Even though, like, wrestling wise, I've wrestled as the Son of Abdullah, so I've studied him to quite a bit. But the whole idea was I wanted to have the fans feel like you were talking about the emotions. So I enhanced his character. I try to make whatever that they asked me to do to be like larger to life, not to be too carny, but to evoke emotions. So for the most part, a lot of people really enjoyed my performance. Sometimes, in the past, because it's not the first time I've been Abdullah on Dark Side, they couldn't tell the footage at times, and that's what I wanted to do. And one of the producers paid me a compliment. He said, and not to knock the other people who've participated, because there's a lot of great workers, but he said, out of all the people who came in to do the reenactments, whenever I see you on set, I really believe Abdullah the Butcher's there. So
can it get higher than that, compliment wise?
Yeah, that's it. So
yeah, no, I think.
And,
oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No. As far as Abdullah, I haven't had a chance to speak to him yet about it. In fact, since like the last time I spoke to Abdullah was a few years ago, so he hasn't. We haven't spoken since I've tried to do all his reenactments for Dark Side, because I did the Dark Side with Bruiser Brody.
Oh yeah,
that episode, and I also did when Tales of the Territories. For the Stampede, there was an episode on Stampede Wrestling, so I did the reenactments for that. So I haven't had a chance, but I'm very curious to see what he would say. But in the past, when he's asked about me, he's always liked my work, and he's always supported me. So
no, that's amazing, and that's really cool to hear that you've kind of been a consistent figure whenever Abdullah the Butcher's been a presence in the episodes you've been there. So that's really cool to know. And you kind of answered my question there. Well, one of the questions I did have for you is, in acting there's a term which is called a representational performance and a presentational performance, where representational is really immersing yourself in the character and it's becoming the character, where presentational is more imitations. And it sounds like knowingly, unknowingly, that was you didn't want to be a presentation, or you didn't want to be an imitation, because I feel like that's something that could be really easy to do when it's just a reenactment, if you will. Or I mean, it's not just a reenactment, but still a performance. But if someone could easily sway into just imitation, because it's almost like it's bits and bobs in the episode when we see it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, and you're very correct on that. What I tried to do is I used props, I was the one that I used to tell him, a lot of times Abdullah would be walking around with a cigar, so I asked for cigars, so they supplied me with cigars and little small things that would have immersed me into the role that I was going to play. So they even went and did the scars on the forehead, which they didn't do in the first episode and the second episode, but they allowed me to take whatever I needed in order to present what I wanted to present as far as the episode. And as far as the only thing that I did try to copy was his walk. I mean, he walks very specific now, especially that he's in a walker. So I used his walk. I tried to be if I was Abdullah now, because Abdullah was scary back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But, a lot of times people would be like, well, we don't understand the allure or the mystique of him now, because, right now his work is not relevant or as is relevant, and people have transcended from what he did. So what I tried to do was just to make sure that I took the essence of who he was, and then use a lot of physical acting to bring about different ranges of emotions throughout his career.
Yeah, and I guess it's not. I definitely wouldn't say easier, but because Abdullah was not really, there was no promos, there was no words really from Abdullah the Butcher's career. It was all mannerisms, all physicalities. Does that make it easier to kind of portray someone like that in something like this, when it's all physicality? It's all that's what Abdullah the Butcher was like. Is all mannerisms physically.
Well, it depends on the character. For Abdullah, it was easy because, like I said, I've studied him for years. I've emulated a lot of the stuff that he's done. So for me, it was second nature. It wasn't, I didn't even think it was even acting, because I already understood what he did, but it was a lot about the nonverbal communication, the physical body language aspects. So like I said, I don't know if it would have been easier or harder with another character, but for Abdullah, it really wasn't an issue.
And it comes across when watching, because it's absolutely fantastic. Especially there's that one shot, I think it was in all the trailers, where you almost turn around, and I think you've got your hand up near your face, and it's blood coming down. It was almost raining blood. That was just epic. And the fact that they go so close to you, because a lot of the shots, a lot of the reenactments we see, obviously it's supposed to be like a dreamlike sequence. A lot. I've talked to some of the creators and they told me that. So obviously we are supposed to think that it's Chris Benoit, it's Abdullah the Butcher, but obviously we don't see enough to realize it's not them. But with you, they go really close, and you can almost see your face quite somewhat clearly, which is a testament to you, because the fact that you capture it so well that they're comfortable enough to go that close, and it doesn't break the allure. It only adds to it, if anything.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's funny because when I did the Tales of the Territory with them, there was a scene where they had me fighting Stu Hart in black and white. So they used an old school 1970s camera that they would use in the studios at that time. Wow. And when they were finished filming, you couldn't tell the real footage to the footage that I just did. So I wasn't surprised that this time, especially because we had special effects for this as far as the scars and everything, and they shaved my beard and I noticed also that out of all the episodes, the close-ups were a lot more pronounced because I think I fit Abdullah so. It was a cool experience.
No, it was amazing, and it was somewhat of a, I don't know if vindication is the right word, but maybe almost like a full circle moment with the fact that you were the son of Abdullah for like over a decade. You've been going by that moniker. I think even when you said, I think I read it or watched in an interview, you said you went by that moniker when Abdullah the Butcher was getting inducted in the Hall of Fame in like 2011.
Yeah.
And now all these years later, here you are portraying Abdullah the Butcher in some of the most high-profile documentary that's ever come out on the man.
Yeah. But it was a little bit of manifest destiny. Like I always knew that I would interact with Abdullah. I didn't know what capacity, whether wrestling inside the ring or working together or stuff like that. But how I got the job in the first place was they were looking for Abdullah. They had a film, and just talking about the first episode, is the first pilot that they're ever doing the show. And maybe 3 days before, they don't have an Abdullah. And then there was a gentleman that they knew, a wrestler, who I knew of. Like we were on Facebook, but we weren't really friends or anything like that. He contacted me and he told me, hey, listen, this is the show. This is the premise of what it was. I didn't really understand the whole reenactment aspect of it, but they were trying to tell me. And then I had to make a decision, like if I wanted to do this. And I just came back from a tour. I was tired, exhausted. And at the time, it was so last minute. Travel arrangements weren't prepared on their part or hotel accommodation. So everything was going to be out of pocket for me in order to do this. And I just thought like, okay, what do I have to lose? I spoke to somebody else and they're like, listen, just go. So I flew myself down there. And they were happy to know that I had all the gear, the boots, everything. And once we did the show and I saw the first episode, I was like, okay, this is absolutely crazy. And not just my episodes, all the other episodes, it was just crazy. I don't know where I was going with this. What was the original question? I'm sorry.
The original question. Like a feeling of like vindication or like fulfillment, like that. Yeah. You were doing the gimmick for so long and now you're showcasing it.
So that was it. So then when I first saw that and I saw, how they did the editing and everything, and I was floored about it, I was like, okay, this is really cool. And it is like a full circle because I knew in some kind of way I would be doing something, Abdullah, because I've always said it before. I'm like, if they ever do a movie or whatever, it'd be crazy for them not to get me just because, the similar looks. I know this stuff. I know how to, whatever. So, yeah, to answer your question, it is definitely a full circle.
Was it better? Was it better doing this, or was it more rewarding when Abdullah the Butcher himself said it was okay to go by the moniker Son of Abdullah?
Both. Well, see, because the thing is, you never want to take somebody's gimmick without permission. And
sure.
How I started to do the Abdullah gimmick, all these old school wrestlers that wrestled in the 60s and 70s, whether it be Stu Hart or one of the LeDukes or anybody that wrestled during that period, they always used to say I was a young Abdullah the Butcher. And I'm like, I'm not sure if that's a good or bad compliment. I wasn't sure about it. But then I had an opportunity to have my first wrestling tour in England. So when I contacted the promoter, and asked if there could be a possibility. When he saw my pictures, he's like, "You know who you remind me of?" And I'm like, "Abdullah the Butcher." And they're like, "Yeah, do you have his gimmick?" And at that time, I didn't have anything Abdullah related, but I just told them, "Yeah, I do." And they're like, "Okay, if you have the Abdullah gimmick, we'll book you for a week in England." So as soon as I got off the phone with him, I'm like, "Great." And then I'm like, "Oh no, I need to find this stuff." So the gentleman who did my wrestling boots, I was going to ask him, is it possible if he could even do the horn rimmed the boots? And as soon as I'm about to walk down the stairs, in the display, the window display, is these curled up boots. So I walked in. I said, "What are those shoes?" They were shoes, not boots. And he goes, "Oh, Cirque du Soleil came in and they were looking and asking for these type of boots and stuff like the shoes. So I made those." I'm like, "Can you make that in a boot?" And he's like, "Yeah." So we did that. And then I had a friend whose girlfriend was a seamstress. And I'm like, "Listen, I need some Aladdin type baggy pants." And that was it. So after I did my tour and I start wrestling, like I started in England, and then Ireland contacted me, and Japan and all these different places. And I'm like, this is cool, but I never cleared it up with Abdullah. At one point, Abdullah was had an interview, because I don't know, for whatever reason, but the interviewer was from Montreal and stuff like that. And he said, "Hey, we have a gentleman here that's done the Son of Abdullah. Have you seen him?" And then he said, "Yeah, I've seen him. I like him. Great work. I'd love to work with him." So that's how I knew. And then when he came to receive his award in 2010, 2011, I met him. And he's like, "I know you." He goes, "So do you think you're better than me?" And, of course, I'm being respectful and everything. I'm like, "No, sir, you are the man." And he's like, "Listen, if you don't think you're the greatest, you're never going to succeed in life. So, if you're not trying to be the best, why are you doing this?" So he gave me some knowledge on that, and just to know that I had his blessings. So I thought that was the coolest thing.
What was a day in the life like on the set like, so filming this episode? Because I know generally they kind of have all the interviews and everything in the can, so all of that is done. This is kind of like the final step before the edit is the reenactments. So what was it like when you went on the set and were beginning to film all these varied scenes from his older days to wrestling gimmicks and obviously just random shots? Because the visuals in this episode, I mean, all the episodes have some stunning stuff, but this one's, some of the stuff was incredible. It was so powerful, and it went with the story just beautifully.
Yeah. I agree, and try not to be biased because I'm the one in it, but I thought the shots were amazing. Even the pictures, the photography that was done for it to promote it. Big shout out to Nathan Boone. A day in the life. Well, I was there for a week. Usually I'm there for a day, but because the episode was solely on Abdullah, they flew me in for the week. So what would happen is, what was really cool is they gave me the interview. They gave me the actual episode without all the reenactments. So that way, before I get on set, I could really understand what they're going for, what they're trying to shoot, and try to then emote the right performance for them. So I would get into the chair, like it depends, but usually it was morning. So they'd come pick me up. I'd get to the studio, and then it'd be makeup. The makeup artist, Mel, big shout out to her. She would work and put my scars on, and that would take about a half an hour. Then I would go to the clothing, and depending on whatever the scene it was, if it's wearing a suit or the gimmicks or whatever. And what was really amazing is that it was actually like try to be as factual as possible. So like during this time period, he wore just say the white karate pants. I would bring out the white karate pants, and they would provide all the accessories. If I was at a restaurant in 1970, the person that was in charge of the clothing department, Sarah, and her crew would make sure that I looked exactly like how Abdullah, and they had so many reference photos and pictures. It was crazy. So then after getting my gear, then I would go and do the scene. So it usually was 8 hours, not of course not straight, but 8 hours a day. And depending on what scenes it was. So I'd get there just say by 8 o'clock. And then by 5 o'clock, I would be back home. They'd drive me back home, and then I'd have the script for the next day. And once again, I would watch the particular episode just to see the direction that they were going.
Did they play the music for you as well? Like, because sometimes I know the composer interviewed Andrew, and he said sometimes they play his music on the set to help kind of
Yeah,
like while you're performing. Did they do that as well? Like play the music of the
yeah,
episode?
they would, except for when we did the Raining in Blood, they used the Blade. They used the Blade music, the movie Blade.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because there's a scene in the club where it's raining blood and stuff like that. But
yeah.
other than that, they would do that if the music was there, ahead of time. But it's funny because what he doesn't know is that I would listen to his music. Like there was one sequence or episode, the Brody episode, and it was like the first 2 minutes of it, and it was such building. I use that to get into my character, or I would listen to music that I would think would be, that would evoke Abdullah the Butcher. So, yeah.
Oh,
But
that. Oh, oh no, no,
sorry,
you
go
go.
on.
No, no, you go. You go. You go.
Yeah, but talking about that raining blood sequence was crazy because that day, that was the only scene that was to be set up, and they filled up these massive barrels of what was supposed to be warm water, and just to mix in all that stuff, but it wasn't as warm. Or by the time I got to the set, it wasn't warm. So, and then they had this big apparatus that would rain down the rain, and then they would have a plastic mat at the bottom, like a pool covering. But the problem was they didn't put any mats in there for traction. So as I'm doing all these mannerisms and turning around from this camera to this camera, at the whole time, I got to make sure my balance is okay so I don't slip and break my neck. So, but other than that, it was a cool experience.
That's amazing, man. And that's really cool that they allowed you to watch the interviews and stuff beforehand. I mean, I totally understand why. And it really, because there was a moment there, it's a small reenactment. It's when he's older and they're talking about his current struggles, the lawsuit and stuff. And it's when he's being consoled by the carer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reenactment of that. So it's
Yeah.
you and and another woman who's like acting as the carer and like consoling you as obviously Abdullah's going for the legal battles. Having the interviews in preparation for like a small moment like that, how did it really help for like in particular in like those kind of moments, like those really subtle, small yet very powerful moments?
Well, yeah, because then you have a sense of how much of admiration and love she has for Abdullah. So, you channel that, or you get that this is the person that really cares for me. And then you just go through your mental data bank, and everyone has situations, maybe not necessarily, not paying bills or whatever, or being broke, but things that would make you feel a certain way. So you just tap into those, and you try to get the emotions out of these two people who care for each other. She definitely cares, and she's willing to help me, in my need while I'm feeling dire and depressed and sad and forlorn and stuff like that. And then you just try to create chemistry to make sure that the scene works.
Yeah. No, and it absolutely does. And one of the ones, the other reenactments, sorry, that really stood out to me and I thought was particularly just captivating was the one where you're reenacting the chain match with Carlos Colon, Abdullah the Butcher versus Carlos Colon. That comes in and it really, because I think it's Hugo Savinovich is talking about how just wild that match is and how crazy it is and just a different time of wrestling that was. And in your reenactments with whomever is playing Carlos Colon, just insane that the way they've shot it, the rain and just the close-ups of the chain, looks bloody bloody stunning. Like it's so powerful, and it made me feel like I'm watching the match. Like this is what was happening. This was the match. Like it give me that feeling. What was that like to film? Because I mean, it came across just as one of the most definitely captivating shots.
Well, cold water will definitely inspire you. It was another. Oh yeah. So you want to get the scenes over as quickly as possible. No, but it was the cold water. I sat the night before watching a whole bunch of matches with him in Cologne just to try to see the tenacity and the viciousness of it. And also utilizing the fact that I've been in chain matches before myself, so I kind of understand what we're trying to promote when we're trying to promote the savagery of it, the violence of it, the connection between the two combatants. The gentleman, I can't remember his name right now, but he was spot on and he was good, and we had good chemistry working together. So the whole idea is that we wanted to make sure that people, whether they're wrestling fans or not, can understand the pure viciousness of that scene, and just to evoke emotions from watching that.
You definitely evoked my emotion for sure, and I'm sure everybody else's. Was there a particular moment for you that was a standout, like regardless of whether it was a scene, just a moment while you were filming? Was there anything that you took away that was really special for you?
Yeah, well, I kind of popped off that everyone popped. Like I got a standing ovation after the raining blood sequence. Like apparently I really performed very well. So when that was finished, everybody started clapping and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay. But for me, which you won't see a lot in the scene, and not that I wish, because I understand you always take what you need for the editing part to make the story work. But there was a couple of scenes where he's in the walker and he's walking into the darkness. I did a couple of those, walking in there with a walker and doing his walk, and there was a light and turning, looking to the light. There was one run through where I'm walking, and as he's walking into the darkness, it was like almost he was remembering he used to be that monster, the bad man, the butcher. So, I'm in this old cardigan and this old man trousers and thing, and I'm walking. And as I'm walking closer and closer into the darkness, I'm taking off my sweater. I'm taking off my shirt. So I'm now bare chested. I'm walking more. I'm starting to do the mannerisms. And at one point, I just take away the walker, and I stumble into the darkness, and that was powerful. And I was like, okay, now I understand who I am and what I'm trying to portray. And I felt at that particular point like I was fully immersed as being Abdullah the Butcher.
That's amazing. And it always seems to be these small moments for performers that no one else really realizes or maybe sees. It seems to be the most special moments for you guys. So that's cool to see. Obviously, Darkside's become so big, so it's grown so much. And I spoke to Lulu, who played Sunny this season.
She's an amazing person, man. Shout out to Lulu.
She's lovely. She was such a kind lady, and brilliant as Sunny as well. She said that in the recent years, wrestling has had a bit of a boom period again with AEW, WWE, and a lot of success. It's great to see. And she feels Darkside has in a small way contributed to that boom as well, because in some ways, capturing a non-wrestling fan audience for wrestling, and getting them into wrestling in some capacity, being able to see these stories and things of that nature. Do you agree with that? Yeah. Do you think that's the case as well? Sorry,
you were skipping. What were you saying?
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, do you agree with that? Because it certainly gives people like yourselves the rub, if you will, if you're going to use wrestling terms, and it gives you guys this opportunity and this platform to kind of grow your brands and yourselves as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think overall it works both ways, because those who maybe just have been fans of a certain time period of wrestling, they watch that. It might pick their interest and see, hey, what's relevant? What's going on now? Or whoever the people that are doing the reenactments, then they might be curious to find out where they're going, like you're saying, and showing their brand. And then it might get them to get back into wrestling, and vice versa. Some people may not know the history during this time period, but because it's making so much noise and people are talking about it and it's on people's lips, then it gives them an opportunity to find out, okay, let me go back and then find out, okay, so this is the source. This is where things came out. You know what I mean? Everyone sometimes have a little bit of a negative connotation because the dark side of the ring. So it's always talking about the dark aspects of it. And that's the part of the show and that's the allure, but also you could find the positivities because then it makes people then research like who was Abdullah the Butcher, who was Broser Brody, who was Terry Funk. Shout out to Channing Decker who played him in that episode. Who are these people? Who are these promotions? Why was there a significance? And then there's a little bit of osmosis because then it's like then they try to connect. Okay, Abdullah is like this and he was like this, so he was a precursor to maybe John Moxley or somebody else that they're watching that has maybe certain aspects of their style that derive from Abdullah and vice versa. So I think it's like a full circle. It connects the old with the new, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, was it Channing Decker? He also played Brian Pillman as well, didn't he? And he was fantastic in that. Yeah. No, that's great to hear. And if you were to, I mean, I hope you carry on and do more dark side stuff, considering how well you have done and added how much you add to the show. If you had a choice and you could pick any other wrestler, superstar to portray in this, who would you like to portray?
Well, there's a couple. I don't have the body types for, but I would. Bad News Allen, Bad News Brown. I think he has a story that has to be told. The things that he went through. How he was a judo champion. He represented the Olympics. He was a medalist, I believe, a silver medalist. I could be wrong about that. Him training in Japan could be stories. Him wrestling through Stampede. You hear a little bit of stories, but you'd want to see the most. Him wrestling in WWE. What was promised to him apparently, or allegedly, Vince wanted him to be the first Black world champion. What happened to that? How did that go? Just certain stuff like that. I think he has a very interesting story that needs to be told and said. And I believe that if I was 100 pounds lighter, I'd be able to do that. I'd love to do that.
I could definitely see you doing Bad News.
Yeah, I'd have to definitely get into the best shape of my life. You know what? Maybe that could be something on the bucket list.
Yeah.
If I could pull it off in the next year, I would definitely do that. But I think he has a story. So he first and foremost, and then maybe somebody else, like any of the wrestlers, any of the Black wrestlers in the 60s and 70s, they have a story to tell because they were wrestling during segregation in these redneck Southern, states. There's a lot of like dark stuff that would be happening, no pun intended.
Yeah.
That they would have to be dealing with, just to going to the restaurant and having to order out back, not be able to use the bathrooms in the arenas. Like, what was that situation like? So, there was a gentleman that I can't remember his name. Maybe you'll be able to pick it up right now. A lot of times people thought that Dusty Rhodes took, I think it's Thunderbolt Patterson.
Yeah. Thunderbolt Patterson, yeah.
So a lot of people have taken a little bit of his pitter-patter, how he talked, how he spoke. And he was a controversial person in himself, you know what I mean? So he'd be a gentleman that I'd like to try to take on and do stuff. But Evans and Jason's have done a beautiful, job with all these episodes. You know what I mean? They try to show the very best in each episode. And what's crazy about Jason is he's so nonchalant. I call him like he's such a nonchalant director. He's like, all right, we need this and go. You know what I mean? Like he's not like I want this and that. And, he'll explain, but he's so laid back and chill, and he will acknowledge that if he knows that you're going somewhere, he allows you to try it and to see where it goes. But yeah, he's good. And Evans they're so laid back. You think like it's the fourth season now and stuff like that. They'd be like very hands-on, but like they don't have to be because it's a well-oiled machine and they're just so chill and it's cool. So yeah, one thing that I was told was like whether I come back as Abdullah the Butcher, I think based on my last performance, they're like, if we can get you a role somewhere else, we'll do it. You know what I mean? So I think that's a testament of how much I wanted to tell Abdullah's story. So first and foremost, as a professional, you try to do the very best you can, period. I really enjoy Tales of the Territory and Dark Side of the Ring. I really enjoy Dark Side episodes. So whenever I get the call, I'm up for it. I didn't tell anybody. This is like, I haven't told anybody, but when they first
Very good.
called me for this episode, Abdullah the Butcher is 360 pounds. The first time I did Abdullah the Butcher, I was around 330. Then Tales of the Territories, I was 300. And I thought, okay, I guess that's it. They're not going to call me for Abdullah. So when they called me to Abdullah, like I've been in the gym working out and stuff like that. When they called me like about 3 months before to see if I'd be interested to do it again, I said, yeah, sure. But I was at 270. So I did not look like Abdullah the Butcher. Like I looked like maybe Abdullah the Butcher when he was 18 or 19. I did not fit the body type anymore. So they're like, great. Can you send us a picture of what you look now? Jason, Evan, sorry, but I gave them an old picture. So I gave them a picture before. And then as soon as they said their thing, I'm like, all right, I'm out of the gym for the next 3 months and I'm just eating. And I actually gained 20 pounds.
Wow.
Just so I can look back again. So, so
it was worth it.
I think so. But now I'm going back to, because I want to get down to about 275, 260. And if they call me again, I'll have enough time to. Because the gain of weight is not the issue.
Yes, to lose it, I imagine. Yeah. No, I mean that's amazing, Dru. And like I said, it was all worth it. It was incredible. Cool. One of the top episodes of this season, in my opinion. Perhaps across all series, I would have to rewatch and have a proper opinion on that. But no, I definitely think it's one of the standout episodes. And thank you again for your time, man. I love doing this, and your insight and generosity to myself is very appreciated.
Not a problem. Really appreciate it. I'd like to wish you all the very best in all your endeavors with this podcast and outside. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to promote myself on your podcast. And I can't wait to promote it on all my social forums and let everybody know about your podcast. I checked a couple of them. I'm really I love how you're very easy with your questions. They're intelligent. You're informed. You told me that you checked some other stuff on me. You did your due diligence, and I appreciate that. It always helps the movement of a podcast. And like I said, thank you very much once again. And hopefully this won't be the last time that me and you share a screen.
No, I would love it. It's been great, man. And wish you all the best. And like I said, I'll let you know when this drops. And I hope to see you in another Dark Side soon.
Most definitely. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Sherman. Have a good one.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Cheers.